You're listening to a 3CR podcast created in the studios of independent community radio station 3CR in Melbourne, Australia. For more information, go to allthews.3cr.org.au.
Sabah al-Khair, good morning dear listeners. You're listening to Radio 3CR on 855 AM and Palestine Remembered with Robert Martin, Nasser Mashni and Yusuf Ahmed al-Rimawi.
Palestine Remembered is Australia's only English-language radio program that is totally dedicated to Palestine. We'd like to welcome those listening on 855 and those that will join us on podcast at 3cr.org.au.
Thanks for joining us. Stay with us and enjoy the episode.
Bringing you the news and views and the untold side of the Palestinian struggle for freedom from a Palestinian perspective. Good morning, listeners, and welcome to another episode of Palestine Remembered, day 391 of this ongoing genocide, the disaster that has befallen humanity, the duplicity of Western hypocrisy on all norms of international law, on all norms of equality, of freedom, of justice. The graveyard sits today in Gaza, it sits today in Lebanon, it sits today in Yemen, but also sits in Sudan, it also sits in Syria, in Iran, in Afghanistan, in all of the other places in Libya that Western imperialism and Western hegemony has endeavored to deliver quote-unquote democracy, but to ensure the supremacy of their ideology, the supremacy of their business interests, the supremacy of capitalism. Shamefully, during the week, the Israeli Knesset voted to ban UNRWA, the UN agency that is solely responsible, that was created because of the disaster that befell the Palestinian people when the UN General Assembly voted to partition Palestine in a non-binding vote. We should always remember that Israel exists illegally. A General Assembly vote is non-binding. There was no Security Council resolution. As if any group of countries, whatever they might call themselves, the League of Nations or the UN, has the right to partition anybody's land. Shamefully, that decision led to the Nakba, 47, 48, 49, and to where we are today, the Holocaust in the slaughterhouse that is Gaza. Since October 7, as desperately dark as things have been for so many Australian Palestinians all over the world, there have been so many green shoots, so many things for us to look optimistically towards the change that will ensure that Israel does not see its 100th birthday. Israel will not make 100. Some of those green shoots have been things like the students' encampments. Some of those things have been the overwhelming understanding now that Zionism is racism, that Israel is a settler colony, the attachment and the growing understanding with indigenous folk all over this planet, and of Palestinians who have been very guilty of seeking proximity to whiteness, seeking proximity to power as diaspora refugee people, and not understanding that wherever they may be, they are in fact settlers if they're living inside a colony like this one, or in Aotearoa, or in Turtle Island and the Americas, etc. So there are many green shoots. We are joined today by another green shoot, Mr. Azeez Nabulsi. He's a Palestinian, he's a Bosnian, so double genocide, as if one is not enough. He's 20 years old, he's an apprentice electrician, and he's just started running to raise money from Melbourne to Sydney. You can follow him at Gaza Endurance on Instagram. There'll be a link for it in the podcast, Gaza Endurance, joined by Azeez, who has completed one leg of his run, and he'll be running again today for his second leg. Good morning, Azeez. How are you doing?
I'm really well, thank you. Good morning to you. It's a pleasure to talk to you and an honor to be here.
Fantastic. Now, Aziz, we'll talk about the run in a second. We'll talk about what your goals are, but tell us a little bit about yourself. So, Dad's Palestinian. Tell us a little bit about his story, and Mum's from Bosnia. A little bit about hers.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like they personally went through the genocide that some of the other Bosnians and Palestinians went through and or are still going through, but definitely people that they were close to. So my mum was born here, so she didn't really she wasn't there to experience that herself. But we have family members on that side of the family who, passed away there in the war, neighbors, friends, and you hear a lot of stories about that. And then on dad's side as well, alhamdulillah, the family have been out of Palestine for I think 1 or 2 generations. So from Nablus originally, but they migrated to Amman and Salt in Jordan. So they've been out of the firing zone.
It's interesting you say that your mum hasn't really felt it or your dad hasn't felt it, Aziz. The reality is, here you are, you're a fair guy, white passing, quote unquote, but you're motivated to do something for Gaza, but you haven't been impacted. I don't think that your mum wasn't impacted or your dad. You can't come from those situations and not be moved and not feel that empathy. So I'm sure, although your mum was born here, I mean, I was born here.
Mm-mm.
And every waking moment of every waking day for my entire life has felt like October 7th. But now I've seen in the community, like yourself, Aziz, an acute attachment to what our responsibility collectively in the West looks like. Aziz, Melbourne to Sydney, that's not a little run. How many kilometers is it?
Most people, when they drive it, it's around just over 900 kilometers, but we'll be taking the scenic route along the coast just to make it a little bit harder for ourselves. So it's almost 1,000 kilometers on the dot.
1,000 kilometers. And how many days is it going to take you to do it?
We're taking the whole month of November out to do this. So 30 days, we'll be averaging up to 40 kilometers a day, just depending on how far apart the towns are that we're running between. So some days will be a little bit less, some days a bit more, but around 40 kilometers.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm just trying to get my head around it. I used to do the odd 5K and the odd 10K. I once attempted a 20K and then halfway through decided that it was going to be only a 10K. So,
Yep,
but
happens.
it does happen, yeah.
Bit of improvisation mid-run.
Yeah, it's a long way, Aziz, but fantastic that you've chosen to do this and fantastic that you've got your page up and running. Your goal is 30,000. You've already raised over 6. So again, there'll be a link for it in the podcast, but if you go to Instagram and search Gaza Endurance in the search bar there, you'll be able to find Aziz's page and you can see some snippets of his speech at the rally last weekend and also be able to follow his journey. They'll be making regular posts there. Aziz, what made you think about running?
The actual story behind running from Melbourne to Sydney is it's quite foolish. What happened was we were driving back from Sydney one day, and I was putting the maps in just to see how long it would take, and the button was accidentally clicked on walking, and that was last year, almost to this day last year. In that moment, my mind went, that would be an interesting trip, a trip on foot to Sydney, and so that's sort of the original genesis of the idea. And from then, actually, that thought just sort of stuck. And I think at that time, the situation, post October 7th was really developing, and the two kind of just started morphing together. And I kept it to myself for a long time, just kind of figuring out in my head how logistically it would work. And then invited some friends in, and we tried to make it happen.
So your first day is done. So you've got another 29 more runs to do.
Yep.
Are you going to be trying to speak to people along the way? What's the support team look like?
In terms of speaking to people along the way, the idea is to obviously, when we get to more remote towns, really touch base with the locals and see if obviously the internet connects us all, no matter where we are, but definitely out in the middle of nowhere, people are going to have different ideas. I'm really curious to see how these people, and even if they do have an opinion on Palestine, Israel, so speaking to them would be really eye-opening, I feel. So looking forward to that. In terms of the support team, we have my friend Ali. He's in the vehicle. He follows along. He meets up with me when it's time to eat, when it's time to pray and stop for a water break, and any medical needs that I might have, any first aid. He's there to support basically, and he helps out when we stop with the cooking and the cleaning and making sure I have everything I want. So yeah, he's the perfect man for the job.
Yeah, fantastic. And have you decked out his car?
Absolutely. Yeah. We've got the freezer with all the meat in it that my dad prepared the day before we departed. We got chicken wings and steaks and sausages, everything, that a runner might need.
Runners need carbs, not protein. Have you got sugars?
We do have sugars, but when we spoke to the dietitian before we left, the main thing he emphasized was protein, surprisingly. And the carbs definitely have their place for energy, but he said the protein is what's going to stop your body from falling apart and breaking down. He said a high protein diet was his main concern. In terms of carbs, I have my beans and my chickpeas and rice and pasta and all those, but I have my protein mainly as well.
And so your goal is to raise $30,000, and that's going through the human appeal. So what's the goal, Azeez? What are you hoping to do?
Well, obviously we know that it's not going to end the war, what we're doing, but we're offering up our contribution. We're basically saying that this is our bit that we are contributing. Mainly, we want to inspire someone else to have a better idea. Someone's going to have a much better, well thought out solution than us. It may even be someone in the next generation, and we accept that maybe we aren't the ones that are gonna solve everything, but we're gonna at least try, and if not, hopefully inspire someone else to bring something better along.
And I mean, the reality is, I'm assuming Ali's car's got Free Palestine on it and stuff. Wherever you go, people are going to ask you questions. So there'll be opportunities for you to talk about what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Undoubtedly, yeah. And as I said, I really look forward to these conversations because we'll be able to understand unique perspectives. We all get inside our little bubbles of, especially on social media, have really made this an issue even bigger, is that we get our feed, we get the algorithm really starts to give us the videos that we want to see. And anytime you can break out of that and speak to someone from completely left field, the Aussie farmer out in the middle of, New South Wales, and we get to talk to him and he goes, oh, this is what and when we have these perspectives coming from here, there, and everywhere, I feel like that's when we can actually start to make progress.
Yeah, brilliant. So, I mean, there's great opportunities for you to have those discussions. I mean, the reality, aside from it being a significant physical feat, there is the optics of you running in a Palestine t-shirt, in a car, being trailed by Ali with, Free Palestine on it. You're raising awareness and humanizing Palestinians as you go.
Absolutely. And I think definitely on the TV, a lot of people's experience with pro-Palestinian supporters may be that they see these people in masks at the rallies, and obviously the news is going to report the one guy with a flare who got into an altercation with, someone else who was making trouble there. So if that's their experience and the narrative that they've created in their head, hopefully when they meet Ali, who's, the gentlest soul they've ever met, or myself, who's trying to have a conversation with them as a fellow human being that they can relate with, they will start to, question themselves and the narrative that they've already formed.
Stay locked to 3CR.
We're joined also by Abdel-Rahman. Hi, Abdel-Rahman. How you doing?
Assalamu alaikum. I'm doing quite well. It's a pleasure to be here and part of this wonderful journey that Azeez will be embarking upon.
Abdel-Rahman, are you going to be accompanying or just Ali in the accompaniment?
Well, unfortunately, being able to take a month off is not something I'm at liberty to do at the moment, but I will be there every step of the way, logistically, however I'm needed as well. And I think it speaks to, whilst we all can't run with Azeez, we can all share the mission, we can all share the purpose, and that's what I'll be doing here from Melbourne.
Brilliant. So again, Gaza Endurance on the Instagram page, but also we will have a link to it in the podcast. So make sure you share it with your friends. All the donations will be going to the Human Appeal. What has Human Appeal told you they're going to do with that money?
We've spoken to Human Appeal. What I really like about Human Appeal is they have their own people on the ground in Gaza. So it's very direct money, and there's, you know, a very direct connection there between the people who are taking the funds and the people who are actually distributing it.
And just to add to that as well, you know, as we've seen the weaponization against charity and aid organizations like UNRWA or even the Palestine American Medical Association, there is such a restriction on the organizations that are able to operate in Gaza. So for us to be able to mobilize the support to the organizations and the people, the Palestinians on the ground, is something that we really need to put more effort behind.
On your Instagram page, it shows one of your runs you did, you know, your best time was a 5-minute kilometers, which is, you know, good going, 12K an hour. At 12K an hour, if you can maintain that to do 1,000 kilometers, you know, it's a hell of a lot of running. A lot of people, when they prepare for something like this, do a lot of work. Have you been doing a lot of training?
Yeah, definitely. We'll definitely slow the pace down on the way there. It's not a 10-kilometer run where I'm going to go all out and try set a PR every day that I run, because the body definitely won't hold up. So we're going to take our time a little bit more than that. In terms of the training, we do 10 kilometers, we do half marathons every day, every second day. We are in preparation, so we've been on and off. I'll run 10 with a break and another 10, or I'll do a 20 in one go. So the body's feeling good, the body's feeling fit, and mainly just watching the diet at the moment, making sure I'm not eating any junk, and getting good sleep and stuff, trying to fix my sleep schedule ahead of each day. And that's what I'm focusing on at the moment.
Fantastic. So again, it's Gaza Endurance on Instagram, but the link will be in the bio. Azeez, have you got some sponsorship?
Absolutely. Human Appeal Australia have funded all of the expenses that we have. So accommodation, food, petrol, any other equipment needs that we have. So they've been a big help to us, and they're really believing in the project, and just, you know, without sort of a second thought, they've just sort of thrown their support at us. The other one I'd like to mention is MCCA. So that's the Halal Finance Organization based in Melbourne. They've been very generous with their support and their sponsorship, and we met with them the day before we departed, and they had so much belief in the cause, and a lot of support for the project we're doing. SubhanAllah, they've donated almost $450,000 to various projects and organizations this year alone. So their support is really valuable to us.
Fantastic. So we'll put a link to MCCA in the podcast, as well as Human Appeal, as well as, don't forget, Gaza Endurance on Instagram, to find a way for you guys to follow Azeez and Ali, as well as an opportunity for you to donate and support their work. Abdel-Rahman, why don't you tell us your connection, firstly to Azeez, but also to Palestine through the ICV and personally?
Well, for many people, the issue of Palestine has been quite peripheral for a long time, because it's not something that has been shown in the media as much as if you are in a community that feels it. So being part of the Muslim community, being part of the Arab community as an Egyptian, this is not something that I've had, you know, the privilege to have had. The experience of Palestinians is something that you see constantly, whether it's, you know, your friends or, you know, family or members as well. So for me, working at the Islamic Council of Victoria, seeing, you know, the influx of refugees that are coming and the increase of passion, you know, now it's completely different post October 7th. You know, we're flooded by emails from people who are really issuing their condolences and their outrage as well. It's become a humanitarian issue as well, and anyone who wants to hold the badge of a humanitarian has been speaking up. So the global activation after October 7th has been something that's quite profound. And, you know, my connection with Azeez is very interesting. Azeez is a very wonderful person, and I have no doubt he will be able to go the distance, because he is very, very tough-minded. I think part of that, this endurance mentality, is something that is so essential to, of course, Gaza Endurance, but to Azeez. The idea that we may not be able to change our circumstance, you know, as members of marginalized communities, we don't necessarily have the power, but the power comes in our endurance. And I think that's what people are really afraid of. And that's something that I think Azeez will embody in the next month.
Brilliant. Some big words there, Azeez. 1 day down, 29 to go.
We're just going to take it one day at a time, you know. I think I would find it hard to get out of bed if I thought of it as 29 days to go. So it's just one more day, and then the next we'll say one more day again.
So you run for a day and then you put a little mark in the ground and then go to a motel and then drive back and then start again? Is that?
That's exactly it. Yeah, yeah. So we'll drop a pin digitally, or we'll, take landmarks down or whatever it is. And then we usually try to stay somewhere in the area. And, during the evenings, we explore a little bit, have a little walk around, try chat with some people. And then the next day we get up and we do it again.
Fantastic. Very, very exciting. Abdel-Rahman, your work at the ICV has put you really at the pointy end of advocacy, number one, but also community relations. What's it been like? You talked about the messages of support, but I imagine you're still getting a lot of messages of hate.
Well, I think it speaks to the media because, you can tell from reviewing the inbox. It's not so much when something overseas happens, but when it's reported and how it's reported. So you get a very bad Sky News article, a very bad Australian article that portrays Muslims or Palestinians as terrorists, then you can see the consequence. And a lot of the hate that is coming is a parrot. It's just someone repeating what they've heard, and you can hear these narratives. It's not original at all. But what is original is the spontaneous community activation that we've had over the past year. And that's something that all members of the ICV, but all members of the community are quite astounded by. The fact that you have people for Palestine groups, from universities to mothers groups to refugees, and all members of the community. So that activation is powerful, and that's not something that is all coming from the media. It's coming from a different place, and that's powerful.
Azeez, you're a young guy, so I don't know how big your peer network is. What do they think about Azeez running to Sydney?
I've actually been very hesitant to mention to anyone that I work with specifically about the project, only because in this stage at the moment, it's sort of my confidence was a little bit on a knife's edge initially. And I just know that the trading environment, there's going to be a lot of negative comments, and there's going to be a lot of doubt and this and that. And I need to sort of, at that stage, block that out. So no one from work I've actually mentioned the project to at all. But definitely when I come back, I'll be talking about it a lot. I didn't feel...
I won't be able to miss you because we're going to make Gaza Endurance on Instagram blow up, get them all to follow you and to donate.
That's it. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I just felt some hesitancy about speaking about it with them prior to actually embarking on the trip.
It's a solid argument to not give naysayers and negative people opportunities to bring you down, because 30 days is an amazing effort. Azeez, thanks so very much for your effort and your work, and we wish you every success. And we tell all of our listeners to follow Gaza Endurance. The link to the Human Appeal is there. Support Azeez. If you see him on the road, pull over and give him a Gatorade or something.
Yeah, please do it. Don't throw rocks and bottles from the car. That's all I ask.
No, well, anybody listening to this show won't be doing that. I'm sure won't be. So good luck, brother. May Allah guide you every foot, and every footstep be a safe one. And we hope we'll speak to you along the journey. And when you return, all the very best of luck, Azeez.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us on.
And thanks, Abdel-Rahman, for all you've done and all your work.
No problem. Thank you, Nasser. Much love as always. Take care.
That was Azeez Nabulsi, Palestinian Bosnian, who's running to Sydney to raise funds and awareness for Palestine, aided by Abdel-Rahman from the ICV and Ali, who'll be following him in the support crew. So make sure you go to Instagram, look up Gaza Endurance, follow that page, support Human Appeal fundraiser he's got, trying to raise $30,000. A big thanks to MCCA, the Islamic Home Finance Australia crew that are sponsoring and supporting and really getting behind the crew. So well done, guys, and the very best of luck. Just amazing what we're seeing out of Palestinian youth, out of Australian Muslim youth, out of Australians in their understanding of what's happening in Palestine, their desire to help. It's never been more important for Palestinians to feel that they are seen, feel that they are heard. So if you do have Palestinian friends, Lebanese friends, reach out to them. It's increasingly getting harder and harder for many of us to just function. The oppression and the pain ongoing of a sycophantic media that continues to support the genocide machine, an Australian government that is incrementally getting better. But one wonders just how many dead Palestinians it will take. How many dead Palestinians will it take? How rogue does Israel have to go? How rogue does Israel have to go before Australia starts imposing sanctions on this genocidal, racist settler colony known as apartheid Israel? We really need so much more from our unions. We need so much more from our churches. We need so much more even amongst Muslims and Islamic leaders. We need more from everyone. The real challenge and one of the real painful parts of this genocide is how it has exposed the dislocation, disassociation of humanity. This standard that we're allowing to happen, the standard we're allowing to pass, is the standard that we've got to come to expect as a norm. Is this going to be normal? Is what Israel is doing normal? Are we so blinded to this level of inhumanity, that it's okay and feasible? And it can't be, it mustn't be, it shouldn't be. And so whatever you're doing, continue to do it. Wherever you're speaking, continue to speak. Palestine is the litmus test. No one is good on Palestine and bad on anything else. It is in fact the hardest thing to be quote unquote good on. It should be the first thing. It shouldn't be controversial for you to say that people ethnically cleansed from their homes should not be genocided, that a rogue state's concept of self-defense is the obliteration of a people, the obliteration of schools, of hospitals, of every bit of infrastructure, an ecocide, a scholasticide, a genocide, that we have the UN saying that Israel's using starvation as a weapon. Starvation. Women carrying children for 9 months with hopes and prayers that their children would have fulfilled dreams that each of us who's a parent had for our own children, that those children are born into a famine, that mothers are unable to lactate, that powdered milk is unavailable, and when it is available, it has to be mixed with water that is saline, that these mothers are knowingly, in an endeavor to fill their children's belly, are poisoning their children, that this is happening under the watch of this quote-unquote civilized world is beyond shameful. Speak up, speak out, speak loud for Palestine. Get along tomorrow to the rally. Get along every Sunday to a rally, wherever you might be on this continent, wherever you might be in the world, where you keffiyeh with pride, where you Palestine pin with pride. Speak up, speak out, speak loud. Humanity needs you. Palestine needs you. Palestine will be free from the river to the sea, and each of you will know that you did your bit. Thanks for listening. Tell your friends, share the podcast, and remember, there's never been a better time for a free Palestine.
You've been listening to a 3CR podcast. If you found it valuable, please consider donating or subscribing to support independent community radio. To find out more, go to 3cr.org.au.